Hey guys, Alex here from TitanBearGaming.com, at TitanBearGaming on social media. Today I'm reviewing a new PDF from Nerdarchy called Fantastical Mounts. This is a publication from the Nerdarchy guys about their homebrew campaign called the Chimes of Discordia, where they made a whole bunch of new mount options available for you to run in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, because they thought that the existing options were a little bit weak, and they've come up with some really great ideas. Now in this PDF, there's a good 5 or 6 different creature ideas that they've come up with, and I'm only going to cover 2 of them in this video. For the rest, you'll have to go check out the PDF yourself. Now, not only are these mounts great from a mount perspective, as something that your player character can ride in D&D 5th edition, but I also really like them simply from a beast design perspective. I think Nerdarchy's done a great job coming up with personalities for these fantastical monsters, and they've come up with some interesting and realistic ways that you might interact with one of these creatures with various forms of animal handling checks. So the first one is called the Gannxuan, and this guy is basically a really, really big cow, right? It's a huge 6-legged cow with big elephant-style stumpy legs that they hit the ground, and they've got these little retractable claws on them. There are 6 legs. They do have something of a snout, kind of a long protruded trunk, kind of a snubby trunk that they use to weed through whatever's on the ground that they want to try to eat. I like to think of them as being akin to the flying buffalo creatures that we had in Avatar: The Last Airbender, especially since those also had multiple legs. They want to eat all the time. They are vegetarian. They're basically going to be eating trees, plants, shrubs, grasses, mushrooms, anything that they can find, because they are enormous. And just like any other kind of enormous grazer, any other kind of enormous herbivore, they need to be feeding at all times. Now, one of the things that Nerdarchy does in this PDF is they talk about the way to train these animals, since the intent behind them is to have them be domesticated and to have them be a mountable creature, or in this case for the Gannxuan, it's more likely going to be used as a beast of burden, though there is the option of going the war Gannxuan. And so for the Gannxuan, the way to the Gannxuan's heart is to continue feeding it, to provide it as much food as possible, and more specifically, if you want the Gannxuan to go somewhere or do something, move its food source over to that location. Gannxuans have kind of a bear-like feature that if there is something obstructing their path to whatever object is that they would like to eat, they will just smash their way straight through whatever obstacles are between it and its food source. So keep that in mind if you're ever going to be using one of these in your game. Something that I think would be really funny to do in terms of actually characterizing a Gannxuan at the gaming table would be to have your Gannxuan handler either sitting on top of the Gannxuan, way up top is a huge creature, or sitting on some kind of cart in the back that has some kind of really long, tough bamboo fishing pole, but instead of having like a hook on the end, there's like a basket of grass or something, whatever the favorite food is for the Gannxuan, and it just uses the fishing pole with the basket on the end to guide the Gannxuan where it wants to go. The Gannxuan is defined as being a docile creature, so they're not particularly warlike, but they do have a war Gannxuan option if you can domesticate these creatures and train them to be more combat ready their whole lives. Now, from a stat block perspective, there's not really a whole lot here that would be unexpected in terms of the Gannxuan's creation. It is classified as a huge beast. It's a challenge 4, so normal druids that are not Circle of the Moon will not be able to transform into this, but as a CR4, if you do have Circle of the Moon, you could transform into one of these creatures. They are huge. They've got an armor class of 14, 76 hit points, a speed of 30, so they're not particularly slow, and they just have a normal bite and stomp style attacks with no other special features. It's once you get up to the war Gannxuans, specially bred Gannxuans for combat, that are a little bit more interesting. Still a huge beast. It's got a 16 armor class since it's intended to have some kind of barding or some kind of additional armor put on top of it. There's an interesting new effect for the war Gannxuan called the Stampeding Charge, which is more or less what you would anticipate if a Gannxuan moves at least 20 feet straight towards the target and then hits it with a stomp attack on the same turn. The target takes an additional 17 points of bludgeoning damage, and if the target is a creature, it must make a DC 15 dexterity save or be knocked prone. So it's exactly the kind of thing that you would anticipate from having like a war elephant style monster. The second mountable beast that Nerdarchy has defined is the Kangarum. Yes, a mixture of a kangaroo and a ram with a big head-butting horns. It's got like this heavy skull plate up on top with these big curled protruding horns that come out the side. And just like you would expect for a mixture of a kangaroo and a ram, it's going to spend half of its time reared up on a very powerful tail. It's a bipedal creature. Think like a tauntaun from Star Wars. It's a bipedal creature with a big, thick, heavy tail, kind of little Tyrannosaurus arms that don't really do a whole lot, but it can rear up on its tail and kick out with its powerful hind legs, or aim for a straightforward charge to try and do this massive, fierce headbutting thing. Now, the part that I think is really cool about about the Kangarum is that the Nerdarchy decided to go in the direction that a straightforward headbutt would, since it's such a common thing that this creature wants to do, it would affect its psychology. It wants to be going in a straight line basically at all times. And that's the key to taming one of these creatures, is when you start to turn it, you can disorient the beast, and that's when it starts to become a little bit more docile and a little bit more influenceable in terms of being able to train it to do the things that you want it to do. In the training text here, it talks about taking the Kangarum by the horns, putting a special kind of harness on it, and leading it by the horns to start to make him dizzy, especially at a younger age, to start getting it accustomed to receiving commands and being directed for where it's going to go. Now, stats-wise, it is a large beast, only at a CR 2, challenge rating of 2, so if you are a non-Circle of the Moon druid, you can shapeshift into this one once you get high enough, which is kind of nice. I like that it's a lower challenge rating option, so it's a little more approachable for other druids. It is categorized as a large beast. It's got 42 hit points, 14 armor, and a speed of 60, so this guy's going to be a very fast two-legged creature as it's hauling ass over these fields. It has a ram attack, it's got a kick attack, just like you would guess, as well as a special feature called Charge. This one operates just like the stampeding attack for the Gannxuan. If the Kangarum moves 20 feet straight toward a target and then hits with a ram attack on the same turn, the creature takes an additional 7 damage and has to make a strength saving throw or be knocked prone, just like you would expect. Now, I really like both of these creatures in here. I already talked about how I'm going to have kind of my fisherman sitting on the back leading the Gannxuan wherever the farmer wants to go. But I also like the Kangarum, and I have one really cool idea that I like for the Kangarum that I think I'm going to bust out for my players at my own table. Since the Kangarum is vulnerable to being sidewound or made dizzy, I have this idea. If you've been following on my Twitter page, I've been talking a little bit about using Yuanti as kind of a rancher concept, kind of a cattle herd. What if we had Yuanti Kangarum ranchers and kind of take advantage of the fact that if they're a snake person, they naturally move in a sidewinding fashion anyway, so they've got something of a racial advantage for handling Kangurams. I kind of like that idea. So I think I'm going to be doing a Yuanti Kangarum ranch in my game. Get ready, players. But otherwise, if you've kind of liked the idea of having a tauntaun style mount that your player character can climb on top of and sprint across fields with, this is for you. There are other fantastical mounts in this PDF, so I encourage you to go head over to nerdarchy.com. It's over on their store in their downloadable products section. Check it out. It's worth the read. I like it a lot, and I think you will too. Leave me a comment on the video down below to let me know what you think of the ones that I've presented here and whether you've taken a look at the rest of the PDF. And when you do, send a little message over to Nerdarchy. They're great guys, and I'm sure they'd love to hear your feedback. As always, you can find me on social media at Titan Bear Gaming. And if you'd like to help support this channel, you can head over to our Patreon and become one of our patrons. We just added a new support option where for just $5 a month, I think it is, we'll send you a personalized discount code that you can use to get a discount on the Titan Bear Gaming store. So if you've got any board games or RPG products that you've been looking for, you can get a little bit extra back to save yourself some money. I think that about does it. Until next time I see you, have more fun, would you? It's good for you.